A decade is a long time in the world of gaming. You're talking the length of time between the jagged polygon Lara Croft boobies of the PS1 era and artistically timeless games like Okami. In short, it doesn't take long for time to show your age, and games are no different. However, these last-gen hits still need to age with grace, and thankfully, there are plenty that manage to mature like fine wine, offering experiences that feel as polished and refined as current-gen offerings. So, we want to look back over a decade, all the games that flirt with the label of retro, and spotlight which of these could pass for a current-gen game today. This one might get a little bit of flack, as there is definitely a certain last-gen sheen that pokes through on some occasions throughout Assassin's Creed Black Flag. But I want to ask you all to zoom out and look at the bigger picture, as aside from some minor flaws, this is a game that still looks absolutely stellar. Not only do I still consider this the last truly great Assassin's Creed game due to its swashbuckling gameplay, high seas antics, and incredible scope for exploration, I also consider it one of the finest looking games of the era. Being a pirate-themed game, you would expect the water physics to be top-notch, and they are, but the game looks great holistically, supporting a captivating storyline and so much more. I do still believe that the game would benefit from and deserves a remaster, but even still, it holds up fantastically and is still probably one of, if not the pirate games of all time. I feel that ever since the hype around the new and improved Tomb Raider revamps died down, many have forgotten just how good these games were, as they cast Lara Croft in a new light, offered a more structured and mature narrative to the series, and also made the series look a lot nicer than the jagged polygons of the PS1 era. The epitome of this was probably Rise of the Tomb Raider, as this last outing for this modern iteration of Lara not only offered some of the most enjoyable action within the modern series, but also still looks absolutely incredible a decade on. It's a game that remains true to its roots, offering platforming, puzzling, and action at every turn. But more importantly, it presents it all in a way that could easily pass for a current-gen game. So, if you happen to miss out on the modern Tomb Raider names, there's still time to enjoy them without feeling like you're playing a relic of the past. You want to know how good the original Last of Us remaster was? It was so good that when another remaster/remake was announced, the whole gaming community tilted their heads sideways in unison and said, "Who the hell asked for that?" The original game was already a looker, with incredible mocap, visuals, and performances that made each scene as impactful as a Hollywood blockbuster. However, the remaster added some much-needed touch-ups to drag this PS3 game into the new era. It's undoubtedly true that the more recent Part 1 remake is a better-looking game, but the truth is that the improvements are pretty minuscule, and the original still looks fantastic. Not to mention, it's a seminal survival horror experience and one of the most well-written games in living memory. So even if it weren't for the visuals, I'm sure the all-around quality would convince people that this is as brilliant as any current-gen offerings. Before I heap praise on Second Son, let it be known that I personally feel that it's the weakest of all the infamous games ever produced. However, being the worst player on a world-class team is still pretty impressive, and Delson Rowe has certainly earned that accolade. While it's not quite as dripping as Cole's Duo titles, it's still a phenomenal open-world superhero-style action game, complete with oodles of content, some of the most satisfying traverse you'll find in any game, and most importantly, current-gen visuals. Despite being a PS4 launch title, Second Son boasts visuals that could easily contend with most modern releases today, and the companion prequel, First Light, boasts those same crisp visuals. It's not a world beater in terms of gameplay, but it's a worthwhile adventure and certainly looks the part. So if it were to release today, I doubt it would feel out of place at all. To make a game feel next-gen, you don't have to go all out on realistic visuals and cinematic presentation. Sure, that helps, but an eye-catching and groundbreaking gameplay mechanic could be enough to captivate the masses and allow your game to become a seminal game for the ages.
Sadly, a patent has stopped any other game from riffing on the glorious Nemesis system present in Shadow of Mordor, but that perhaps has cemented this title as an all-time great and has allowed this game to retain a new age feel that no game has been able to replicate. But alongside this reactive vengeance simulator that roars in the background, the game also does Tolkien's work justice with crisp visuals and a unique story that builds on the lore of the lesser-seen realm of Mordor. Granted, it's a game that relies on a very earthy color palette, which will be off-putting to some, but I assure you, this game still looks great and plays even better. It's basically Arkham within the world of LORT with the Nemesis system propping it up. What's not to love?
Crysis for the longest time was the benchmark for excellence when it came to high fidelity and crisp visuals. So much so that almost no PCs could run the damn thing when the game was in its pomp. But what's perhaps most impressive all these years on and how good this game still looks. I'll admit, I was never a massive fan of the Crysis series, as it never felt like a staggeringly good FPS series. But what cannot be denied is that it pushed the boat out to offer new age tech that other games could not. The fully destructible environments were mind-blowing at the time. The lighting, shadows, and textures were a step above, plus the finer details like water refraction, vegetation physics, and so much more added to the immersive realistic. Sharper and shinier FPS games have come since, but this FPS game that showcased the Crysis engine in all its glory is still a showcase of visual excellence, a whopping 19 years on, and that is more than worthy of praise.
With Battlefield 6 right around the corner, it feels apt that we discuss just how incredible Battlefield 4 looks even now. So much so that eager Battlefield 6 fans are comparing the two and finding that the older title might just take the edge as the more visually appealing of the two. A lot of multiplayer FPS games of this era look fantastic, as that was where the money was at. Everyone was trying to dethrone Call of Duty, and you would have to credit Battlefield as the staunchest competitor. The artistic excellence played a factor, but the smooth gunplay helped a lot. The massively multiplayer game mode certainly played a role, and the fact that it offered something new compared to COD made it a must-play for anyone suffering from Soap McTavish fatigue. It might not be the most popular online game, with just around 1,000 concurrent players at the time of writing, a number that will likely plummet when the new Battlefield drops, but credit where it's due, it's a game that holds up nicely.
If there was ever a game made for a list like this, it's The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. I firmly believe that, even with recent releases like Ghost of Yoshite and Silent Hill F still in the show. If this game were released today, it would be the game everyone was talking about. This is because it's one of, if not the best, Western open-world RPGs ever made. Mainly down to the sublime writing, quest design, rich world building, morally gray decisions you have to make throughout, and dynamic combat. However, you have to give props to the game's art direction, which is as stunning now among modern greats as it was all the way back in 2015. And that's before you take into account that the Blood and Wine DLC arguably looks even better thanks to the more vibrant color palette. If there was ever a game on this list that could earn the label of timeless, it is this one. And if you still somehow haven't played it, you need to treat yourself to this seminal RPG soon. If you're gonna go out with a bang. That's what people often say. And while Kojima didn't know this would be his final Metal Gear Solid dance, he certainly produced something worthy of it being his swan song. Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain is a rather divisive game among fans, as the narrative isn't quite as tight as the other games in the series, likely due to the fact that Kojima perhaps never got to polish it up and perfect it to his liking, as he was kicked out the Konami door. However, what you can't dispute is that it plays as one of the most satisfying, tactical, and enjoyable stealth games of the modern era, and it looks absolutely phenomenal into the bargain. Some might argue that the dusty deserts of Afghanistan and Angola all look a little one note after a while,
But nonetheless, it's a current gen worthy game if I've ever seen one, and my personal favorite within the series.